All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about free speech tonight and some restrictions that are being placed upon free speech all over Australia. So stick around and listen on tonight's report from Tiger Mountain. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are entering, dangerous new times here in relation to free speech in Australia. I was debating whether I should actually even say this phrase, but I believe contextually it will just be me talking about it, so I'm not advocating it, but I'm going to say it. From the river to the sea has become apparently illegal to say in some states of Australia, New South Wales and Queensland. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, that's a phrase that's popular with the far left. It's not something I would say, but I know it's something that's said at many of the pro-Palestine demonstrations. And so what? Go ahead. I don't see what the problem is. You know what I mean? There are people that have been arrested in New South Wales. There are people that have been arrested in Queensland, and they're going to test it. This is just absolutely ridiculous. And obviously, it's not the only example of, people being arrested for their speech. Obviously, Joel Davis who was formerly a member of the NSN group, and there've been other people. A guy who gave a speech, I can't remember his name. He, was arrested in relation to something you said in New South Wales. Obviously, after the Bondi attack, a whole bunch of, free speech restrictions have come in. And I think, they really are ridiculous. And essentially people are talking politics. And this phrase, the one that's banned, there are many Israeli slogans, you know what I mean? Obviously that Ben Gvir recently made some law where they can legally hang Palestinian, anyone they declare a Palestinian terrorist, which I imagine they would think anybody who's a Palestinian is a terrorist, right? That's why they've bombed everybody in Gaza. They've bombed men, women and children because they go, why did you bomb children? And so, well, they grow up to be terrorists. So under that law, they can just hang anybody, can't they? You know what I mean? They talk about they worry about fascism coming back. Well, Israel has brought fascism back, I think, in a way that would curl the hair of Benito Mussolini. Actually, he didn't really have any hair, did he? I think it's a terrible situation, and Australia is heading towards a kind of, how would you describe it, a UK situation where, you're going to see people getting arrested for mean tweets. Luckily, the bill that was originally put before Parliament was slightly watered down so that it was mainly used for people connected to, say, groups that are connected to Islamic radical terrorism or groups that are connected, to like that National Socialist Network group, which no longer exists, by the way, I've heard. So, there it is. But I think it's terrible. It's also a sign of desperation because, so many people are just saying what they think, and why shouldn't they be able to say what they think? That's what the Anzacs fought for, ladies and gentlemen. They fought for our ability to have free speech and to speak our mind. And believe me, if I think the Anzacs saw what this country had turned into, they certainly would never have fought Germany, that's for sure. And diggers never would have fought them in the Second World War either, because our country, is overrun, and now they're restricting our ability to even have an open political discussion, whether it be on the left with this phrase that they seem to love, or whether it be on the right. You should be able to say what you like. And if there are bad ideas, they should be able to be spoken down and debated. And, the only way to get rid of bad speech is by having a good debate, So whenever the government gets involved in silencing people, I don't think there's ever been an example of a government doing that where things turned out well. So I think that tells you what's going on. So I'm a real believer in free speech, and I'm a free speech absolutist. So I think it's absolutely ridiculous that this phrase has been made illegal. And even though it's mostly left-wing people that are going to be arrested for it, I think it's a travesty, and these people should be released immediately.